Good morning, everybody. It's Tony Jones here, filling in for Phil. So thank you for joining us today. And today I am joined by Taylor, Gary Jones. So Gary, thank you for joining us. And
Thanks for having me.
you know, once or twice a week I will wear a suit, but I was not going to compete with you today. You look really good. You didn't disappoint.
Thanks.
So yeah, thanks for coming. So, but let me get started by asking. I'm always interested to know how people got started and what they do. So can you give us some background? You've been doing this on your own for 10 years, but
Yeah.
longer than that.
So I got started about 16 years ago, but really my journey into clothing started in high school. I wore a suit to school, and I had the principal at the time stop me. I was a decent kid. I didn't get in trouble a lot, and he called me Mr. Jones. And so I'm like, Mister, at 17, that's a big deal.
Yeah, right.
So he's talking to me, he said, you look good. And the reason why I wore it was really my mom wanted a nice picture. She's like, Gary, I want a nice picture. You never smile. You never look good. So I said, fine. So then I go in class, and then another young lady said, Mr. Jones. And it was a different type of Mr. Jones. And I was excited about that attention. So after that, I got invited to a fashion show that same time. And the response from people was immaculate.
Yeah.
People were drawn to my personal brand and what I did, right? So it was a super inspirational thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't a star athlete, and so I seen how just being in that position could really start to propel things. On top of that, I was representing a prom tuxedo company. They asked me to hand out tickets, so I handed out tickets. And they were like, hey, if you get enough, you'll get a percentage off of your tux, which was important to me because I was working 2 jobs.
Sure.
So I talked to everybody I could, and then so many people responded that I got a free suit. So there was $125 I got free for wearing a suit.
Right.
So the rest has been history, no. But but I had great influences like my uncle and an author who really took the time that were around me, that were strong men taking care of their families, very sharp, doing well for themselves. And it gravitated me towards suits. And so what I did, I reached out to a master tailor out of Los Angeles, and he was running a shop similar to mine, building a relationship business. And I paid the fee to be a part of his business and worked with him for about 4 or 5 years. Worked with another guy at DC and started just learning the trade, getting immersed into it. And then when I had my son, who's now 9, I took the leap because I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to show him to go after his dreams. And I didn't want to tell him to do it and not do it myself.
Right.
So it was really like a passion project.
Right.
And I've kept that, you know, the same thing in my business, just enjoy the process of helping people. Just like, you know, being able to do my own personal branding, and it's been a great journey so far.
No, that's awesome. Anytime somebody's doing a small business, it becomes successful, because a lot of them don't, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but yours has.
Yes.
So that's cool. And it's taking you around the world and,
Yes.
and you know,
Yes.
open a lot of doors for you.
Yes,
That's
I
cool.
travel quite a bit. It's been great.
So good. Tell me the process these days, because you don't have a storefront, so take me through what it's going to be
Well,
like on so
I have a private office, so what I do is appointment only. So I go to a lot of my clients in their office or home, or they can come to my office as well. But you basically would just, kind of book your time online. You would go to my website.
JonesSelect.com.
Yep. So you go to JonesSelect.com. Look at the openings. If you're looking for a conversation or consultation about, what should I be wearing to work? How can I change my wardrobe? How can I update my wardrobe? What should I be wearing now? I help answer those questions. So I go through a series of what do you do? Where do you go? What are you trying to accomplish? It's not just picking fabrics, and a suit is not just a suit. And so I help people go through that process of personal branding through my brand.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we've gone more casual, but we also mix with suits. But I was reading a little study how they put like painter jackets, for people, commercial painters, on people, and they told them it was a doctor's jacket. And
Right.
they say the people, thought that they were more intelligent, they weren't tired. So it does,
Yeah.
it makes you feel better, and it projects more professionalism.
Yeah, it does.
So.
It's amazing the dynamics of changing. Even though the world is going very casual, being intentional about what you have on and knowing the colors that complement you, it shows an intuitiveness about who you are as a professional as well. So that when you walk in a room, you're able to control the conversation a little bit more. You're able to negotiate and have that, that, so to speak, power. And I think for a salesperson, for a person that's in business, whether you're a lawyer, financial advisor, feeling good about yourself, it will affect your day.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a lot of obstacles. You're going to have a lot of things that go on that you may not be prepared for. And control what you can control, right?
Right.
Find your coffee that you like, right? Find an attire that makes you feel good so that you can navigate through everything else.
Well, cool. So speaking of that, you've been doing this a while now. How strongly have you seen the trends change?
You know what? With clothing, trends are going to change seasonally, right? And so you have how I break up fashion is very different than most people. So I look at eras. I look at it every 10 years, right? In your 20s, you're going to dress a certain way.
Okay.
Your 30s, your 40s, right? You're on a back nine of your 50s when you're probably working or something like that, right? And so, and then most people, once you get 50, you're not going to change too much. And so, depending on what age group you're in, you don't want to, you know, dress inappropriate for your age, right? There's some guys that's trying to dress like the younger guys. You got to find that space that works best for you.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's a real assessment. But so like right now it's fall time, right? And so look outside, you'll see orange and yellows and warmer colors, right? Burgundies. And so those are the things you want to pull out of your wardrobe to accentuate the fall season. You want to find something a little bit heavier fabric as we get closer to the winter. You want to change based on the season. You want to wear something that you would wear in the spring, right? In the fall or winter.
Right. And I have no fashion sense, and I'm partially colorblind, so I struggle with all that. And it takes my daughters or my wife.
Somebody has a wife, yeah. We always depend on the women in our life. I get it.
So you need to change that, Tony. So
right.
How much? Because when you started, social media wasn't part of our lives at all. Now
right.
it is. So
yeah.
How has that changed?
It's it's been a major impacting factor for me, because when I grew up here in Columbus, Ohio, a native, and really didn't have a huge professional network growing up. Because of the things that I was doing. I was doing more social impactful things and not necessarily in the business market. And so when I started to build my business, it gave me leverage to show people who I was working with, where I was traveling, things to that nature. And I really have been able to build, quite a bit of a network, in not just Columbus, but, in several different states. And so it definitely gave me a great opportunity. It's a great springboard.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What about in terms of, when you started, probably a lot more suits were worn, right, than today?
I think, suits are going to be worn regardless. People change. You have like this tech industry that are going to have a lot more creative, approach. But when you're really at the table, you're talking, with the major New York Stock Exchange, you're talking, big deals. They're going to be the people that are really in charge, the CEOs of the majority companies. They're going to always defer to a jacket, a button-up, when you're really closing a big deal. And so no matter how the season changes, now you don't want to go in a situation and overdress, but you always need your essentials. Yeah. So I think the hype is, there's a lot of hype around what's not going to work anymore. And I've done things where, I've worked with a baseball player and he wants me to go to the game and I'm in a suit. I have to change, right? So I think you do have to have diversity in your wardrobe, but I think you always are going to need your essentials. Okay. Right?
So you have your suits over there, but you're working more on, or solely on suits or casual clothing for some?
I do casual as well. Okay. Yeah. So for me, it's the personal brand. So wherever a person goes, from chinos, I've done custom jeans to custom joggers, it's really a lifestyle brand. But it's really just for those that are in that space that, hey, you have the affordability to make those decisions, or you understand what does it mean to really get a handmade suit? Like, what does that process really mean? It's not a suit is not a suit. You're talking multiple measurements. You're talking about looking at all the imperfections that go on in your body and how can I accommodate for those inside the suit. And you're talking about personal branding. And so it's different than just going to the store, picking off something off the rack and spending a few $100s. And so, with the Jones Select brand, we try to really, really be impactful and very thought-provoking, with each and every client.
Okay. So I want to come to your website, but before we do that, so we're not going there yet. It's interesting. We all try to give back some, and I know you're working some with the Urban League. So, so go into that a little bit. Tell us what you're doing.
The Columbus Urban League, which is a great pillar in the community, they've been around for 100 years. This is their 100-year anniversary. They just did a national conference here not long ago. I helped to facilitate something called My Brother's Closet. My Brother's Closet, it is a initiative to help people that don't have clothing. So I do workshops and partner with them to really help, how you tie a tie. What is your shirt size? What is your suit size? And then how do you prepare for the work environment? Because sometimes, honestly, going into that interview unprepared of knowing what is your environment. If somebody wanted to work for you guys, they would have to have a diversity of their clothing. There's days you dress like this and that's okay. But for an interview, your expectations are going to be a little bit different. And so what I try to do with what they do with that program is prepare people for while they're in transition for jobs. If they don't have suits, one, giving them direction and being able to put clothing on them. And so they suit probably about 200 to 300 people a year. for free, and it's a great place to donate your suits as well.
Yeah. Well, I know a women's organization, Dress for Success.
Yeah,
Because my friend Joyce helps with them, but you take it for granted that we can go out and afford to buy a suit and buy clothing for that. But there's a lot of people, especially when you're just starting out, or if you've had some hurdles, you can't. You know, that's a big burden.
It's a huge burden.
A couple few $100.
Yeah, I mean, and even for me, when I started, I didn't know how to tie a tie. I didn't learn until I was about 13, and now I can tie everything, right, from bow ties to ascots. But it's intimidating. Think about it if you never wear a tie, or you don't have the opportunity to really. You're going into an interview. Maybe you're coming out of college, or maybe you've had some setbacks. How do you even approach it? Do you have enough money?
Right.
And then what is your thought process? Because to be honest with you, adults don't know what to wear.
Right.
Most people that I look at on the news have no idea about fashion, right? They're deferring to their wives.
Right.
And then they still may not get it right all the time, right? So there's very few people that actually understand themselves enough to dress appropriately for themselves. So I think it's a great program. It's a great initiative. I want to continue to help it grow, and it's a great program.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, well let's take a look at your website.
Sure.
One last thing about let's go to the website. Sorry, and we'll come back to this. So why don't you take us through this a little bit here? I'll drive it, but you just tell me where you want to go. So that what I did, I started. Here we are at home, but.
Yeah, so the homepage there is just a bunch of different fashion shows and magazines. Okay. There's Chad there. He's actually a model. I did his wedding.
Okay, cool.
He used to live here in Clintonville, Ohio. He's been modeling for probably 15 years.
Wow.
And so I try to use everything that I've done. And there's Capital Style, me featured there. So that first portion is just me. You'll see me in a few different suits and just some magazine ads and things of that nature. Okay. There's another photo there that's actually American Airlines that I was featured in as well.
Oh, cool.
So just some of the publicity that the company's had and some clients and things of that nature.
Sure.
As you scroll down, kind of just tells my story, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Right.
Keep scrolling down. Yeah, just about me, how I got my start. Okay. If you want to subscribe and get some emails to be updated on what we're doing, you can do that there.
Okay.
And then pictures down here, just a few people that I've worked with, some fun stuff, a few professional athletes. You got Eric Hosmer, who was playing for the Kansas City Royals. You got Ray Edwards, who was with the Minnesota Vikings and the Falcons. You've got Ty Howard and Scooney Penn, some local Ohio State guys, and Bobby Carpenter. And just a few of the images to kind of give you a feel of like the diverse clients that I work with. And it's not everyone, but it just kind of gives you a little bit of taste. Now, the most important thing is how to get your fitting. And so your fitting is basically click on the link down there, and it'll give you the opportunity to go to my schedule there, whether you want a 15-minute consultation to have a conversation about, hey, where are you budget-wise? How can I help you? And then, hey, if you want to do a fitting, you want to come to the office, or you want to, us to come to you, then you're going to be able to do it directly from that link there.
Okay, awesome. So it's effective and a simple website you have here. So remember that, jonesselect.com.
Yep.
So go there, and that's how you can meet Gary. So a couple things that I want to mention. Small businesses. Many small businesses they come and they go. But what happens when you're running a small business often is that you neglect yourself and your financial needs. So I just want to mention, think about, number one, putting away money on a continuous basis when you run your business for yourself, because you're not going to have those years back again, and that's money, if your business does fail, that you'll be able to protect and you'll always have. So I like to mention that, keep that. The other thing that you should be aware of is because of the tax code changes that are coming, small businesses, really outside of being an employee or a C Corp, I believe, you'll be able to get a 20% discount. I say discount, but you'll get your income will be lessened by 20%. So it's really going to be effective for small businesses to take advantage of those things. So anyway, I just want to mention that. So make sure, as you're thinking about the year and how it's going to look, you may want to transition to be an employee. I mean, away from being an employee, because it may be much more favorable to you in the future. So, but in either case. So again, jonesselect.com. We want to thank you, Gary, again for coming on. This has been great. So take a look for Gary, and we will see you next week. Take care.